Hi, I'm Debbie Harbeck, and I'm a certified life coach working with women in midlife and through the menopause transition. So each week, I'll be sharing the latest information, inspiration, and generate some momentum so you can move forward and feel more in control of your changing midlife body and your life. Let's go. Hi, and Happy New Year. I'm glad you're back here with me on the podcast. And if you are listening to this episode when it comes out, it's the first week of January of 2026. And I know that a new year can feel like a fresh new page. There is some magical feeling in the air, right? It feels motivating. And that's why today I want to talk about something that trips all of us up, including me sometimes. And that is the idea that motivation is supposed to come first or that motivation is needed at all. I think we think that one day we'll wake up and we'll suddenly want to go to the gym or we'll want to eat well or we'll want to skip that glass of wine or we'll want to go to bed earlier, meditate, stretch, and do these things that we know will help us feel better. But the truth is that this just isn't the case for most of us, even for those of us, and maybe even especially for those of us who are consistent. We're often not motivated. And that may be a spoiler alert for those of you who have dreamed otherwise. Everyone I know who's doing anything consistently, and I'm going to talk about even going to work or being a parent, we don't always feel like it. Actually, maybe most days we don't feel like it. So today I want to talk about why motivation isn't even necessary and what you should do instead. And the first thing you should know is that motivation is unreliable. It's an emotion. It depends on how you slept, your stress level, your hormones, your mood, how your day has gone so far, what someone said to you at 2 p.m. So if your plan is depending on motivation, then your plan is fragile. It probably won't work. And that's not because you're undisciplined or that you're lazy or that you're even doing something wrong. It's because motivation isn't what's supposed to drive you. Action is what drives you. Let me give you an example from my life, which I kind of alluded to before. I have never loved going to the gym. Even when I'm consistent, even when I know it helps my body, even when I walk out of there feeling stronger and clearer and just so much better, the idea of going to the gym does not light me up. And I've been going for the past 3 years pretty consistently, and I don't love going most of the time. So instead, I tell myself I only have to stay for 10 minutes. I still do that most days. I go to the gym saying to myself, you only have to stay for 10 minutes. I don't commit to a full workout. I don't put pressure on myself to make it intense or to make it impressive to anybody. I'm not bargaining with myself about how long I should stay. I just go. And then I'm allowed to leave after 10 minutes. And what usually happens, well, that's pretty predictable. I get through the door, I start moving, my body warms up, and my brain starts to quiet down. And on most days, I, of course, stay longer than 10 minutes. But some days I don't. And I don't stay longer than 10 minutes because motivation magically shows up. I do it because movement creates momentum. And I want to say that again. Movement creates momentum. And on the days I do leave after 10 minutes, I still count that as a win because I showed up, because I kept the habit alive, because I kept trust with myself that I would do it. And that matters far more than the length of the workout. The other thing to know is that action comes first and then feelings follow. So, this isn't just my personal experience, it's backed by psychology. There's actually an entire approach called behavioral activation. It's used a lot in anxiety and depression treatment, and it's based on this idea. You don't wait to feel better to act, you act, and then feeling better often follows. Or as James Clear puts it in Atomic Habits, If you haven't read that book, I highly suggest you do. It's a great book. He says you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. My 10-minute rule is a system. It removes friction, it lowers resistance, and it makes action possible even when I'm feeling less than energized. Building on this idea, I'm going to take something from BJ Fogg, who founded the Behavioral Design Lab at Stanford University. He studies habit formation, and he says, you don't need motivation to do small behaviors. You only need motivation when behavior feels hard. So the trick isn't to become more motivated. The trick is to make action small enough or easy enough that motivation isn't even required. So, like I said, 10 minutes at the gym, or 5 minutes walking, or one stretch before bed, or one decent meal instead of perfect eating. Movement first, and then feelings come later. There's a reason why momentum beats motivation every time. Here's what I see with my clients and with myself time and time again. No one ever comes back to me and says, I waited for motivation and then everything changed. What they say to me instead is, I just started doing something small. Or they say, I stopped overthinking, right? They just did it. Or they say, I didn't feel like it, but I did it anyways. There's a great book with a similar title. Or they say something like, once I started, it wasn't as hard as I thought. That I hear a lot. It wasn't as hard as I thought. That's momentum. And momentum is powerful because it doesn't rely on your mood. Stephen Pressfield talks about this in The War of Art, another really good book, when he describes resistance, which is what it refers to, that invisible force that keeps us stuck. His point is simple. You don't think your way out of resistance, you move your way out. Action dissolves resistance. Waiting around for motivation strengthens your resistance. So, why does this matter so much right now when you're right in the middle of life, in midlife? This is important because if you're in perimenopause and menopause, your energy is fluctuating, your sleep is unpredictable, your stress tolerance changes. So, advice like just push harder or be more motivated, that stops working. But minimum viable movement still works. And minimum viable movement is an actual term. It includes things like start small, increase movement incrementally, create a feedback loop so you get feedback on what you might need to change. It talks about consistency over intensity, and it talks about being adaptable. This is why I encourage women to stop asking the question, do I feel like it? Do I feel like doing this? And start asking themselves, what's the smallest version of this that still counts today? Because consistency isn't built on the big days. You know that. It's built on showing up on the days that you don't feel like it without making it a battle. Here's what I want you to take away from this episode today. You don't need to love the gym. You don't need to feel motivated. You don't need to wait for the right mood. You just need to move just a little and let momentum do the heavy lifting for you. Motivation might show up later, and if it does, great. But if it doesn't, you can still build strength, energy, confidence, and trust within yourself by showing up. Because momentum will take you far, and motivation may never show up at all. So I hope this episode, rather than motivates you, I hope it actually puts you into action. I hope it gets you to think of the small things you can do every single day that can actually create this momentum where you no longer need motivation. And in the meantime, if you need help here, you know where to find me, and I will help you find your own momentum. That's why I always sign off this podcast with keep moving forward, because I want you to move and keep moving for life. So thank you so much for joining me. Keep moving forward, and bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Midlife Momentum Podcast. If you want to learn more about working with me, come visit me at debbieharbeckcoaching.com. That's Debbie, I-E, Harbeck with a C, coaching.com. See you next week.